What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I want to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what shorts did, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go 0.28% in the red today, but I think it is kind of deserving of a round of applause for staying above $7. Even in the previous couple of days, I was saying that most likely you're going to see market makers and shorts push it below that $7 mark, because of course there was that wall starting to be formed at that $7 strike price. But luckily enough, I think they did cut their losses, because surprisingly throughout the day shorts were increasing their position up until right here. So I'm going to break that all down for you. But when it comes down to volume, 36.5 million shares being traded, 43.3 is the average. So a little bit higher for, I guess, it being a Friday. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market. So big money was still very much interested in SoFi despite the massive amount of fear today. So I think all in all, that's kind of a good thing. And some of the things that really affected SoFi today was, of course, just people anticipating that there's going to be some escalation of that whole, I guess, Iran scenario this upcoming weekend. So this is why you did see a lot of selling during power hour. That way they can kind of hedge just in case there is a situation, and then maybe Monday would be, I don't know, a very significant pullback. So people are hedging that way. And then aside from that, this morning you did have the Feds once again reiterate that they're going to be really looking at the data, and dependent on the data, they're open to either rate cuts or rate hikes. And the fact is that 2 days ago they started to even talk on rate hikes. I think is just absolutely insanity. So again, you had both of those things really affecting the broader market, despite there being no specific news for SoFi. So no SEC filings, no PR, nothing like that. So in reality, it is what it is, but I still think that SoFi closing above $7 was a very big accomplishment, because there was this wall that was starting to be formed. So 13,000 in open interest at the $7 strike price, 32 at the $7.50, 71 at the 8, and then you can kind of see the rest. So this is why I did say that most likely SoFi was definitely not going to get above $7.50. And based on this right here, as it was going up, I was kind of anticipating that basically you'd see market makers trying to suppress it below $7. But luckily enough, when this was starting to go down, there was some random support around 7.05. And so I think at the end of the day, after they tried and it didn't really work, shorts decided to kind of just return and cut their losses. So this is why you do see a huge amount of, I guess, abnormal volume, and that was all attributed to shorts. So kind of weird. So throughout the day they were increasing their position up until this part right here. So yeah, it clearly goes to show that there is manipulation happening behind the scenes. Just the fact that shorts, I don't know, it's kind of hilarious at this stage in the game. But regardless though, shorts did return by the end of the day, 677,000 shares, 17.44% of the free float is being shorted, 173.08 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost to borrow average is 1.05%. And of course, as I've mentioned in the past, I'm not going to directly bring this up, but you can kind of see right here the cost to borrow minimum be negative. So obviously that's starting to pop back up again. Utilization is 73.52%. And as well, interesting point though, over the last little bit, you've seen more and more articles starting to come out kind of analyzing shorts. So I think right now, just the amount of shorts that is in SoFi, despite the epic results that they do get from their earnings time and time again, is very questionable. So I think it's starting, a lot of people are starting to pay attention to that. And then aside from that, there was this article that recently came out, and it kind of just talks on right here, could SoFi become the next JP Morgan? And yeah, it kind of compares the two at this stage in the game, but I think really they are talking on how here SoFi could become one of the big banks if they do continue on the path that they are. And that's kind of my takeaway from this whole article. So as I've said in the past, SoFi is a long-term play. I get the manipulation is, and just the price action over this last little bit has been crap. But if you think bigger picture, then this is where SoFi could be among the big four, or maybe they extend it to 5 or 3, but one of the big banks. So I think that's going to be a fairly positive thing. So let me know your thoughts on that and if you agree or not. But today there was no actual new analyst ratings, so that kind of took a break because there was a good amount of analyst ratings randomly, in fact, and especially before their earnings, that was kind of abnormal. But still, aside from that, looking at options, $4.38 million in calls being purchased versus 2.7 million in puts. Sentiment wise, very evenly divided between calls and puts, so it is what it is. Plus, aside from that though, you do also have a lot of articles talking on options activity. So I think without any news coming out, people are resulting to looking at some of the data and break it down on what it truly does mean. I get, yes, you can analyze short information because those individuals are betting that the underlying stock is going to go down. But when it comes down to, I think, options, that's just more of a sentiment because it doesn't really move the stock price. Because if I myself was to buy $10 million in calls, it doesn't actually move the stock price one bit unless it does get exercised. But still, like by me doing that, it's just a good indication of what maybe people are assuming is coming next. So that's kind of a basis and why I do like to bring that up. But aside from that, like I said, it did close above $7. So you're going to see a nice little bump up, most likely pre-market or during the trading day, as market makers do cover that, because as I've said in the past, market makers don't really have a lot of this type of stock, so very volatile stock, readily available in their inventory. So essentially that does mean that they'll have to go to the open market to buy it. So you might see a nice little bump up on Monday, assuming there isn't a impending third world war or something, and then obviously we'll just have a crazy sell-off, but we'll just have to wait and see. But with the market closed, I think we can kind of hopefully relax and then just worry about that as it comes. I already brought this up, so these are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So this is where you do see near, I guess, the tail end of the day, a lot of this was them returning their shares, aka shorts, whereas throughout the day this was them just kind of increasing and swing trading and everything that they do to manipulate the stock price. So quite a lot in my opinion. Aside from that though, with it closing at $7.11, it is right below this S2. So essentially, yes, it did stay above $7, but the technicals still not necessarily looking the best. So again, going into next week, that could really play as a negative. So stay tuned for my video for this upcoming weekend, where I go over everything that you need to know as far as the technicals and what might be coming. But as it stands, $6.88 will be that next strong support, and then $7.13 will be that next strong target for SoFi. And then just briefly looking right here on the actual chart, I will refresh that. So you do see, ding, 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 right here, lower percentile of the Bollinger Band. Stochastic, you do see a bearish deviation, but it is still oversold. So like I said, if there is a good piece of news or maybe some more analyst ratings, then you could see a nice bump up in the stock price associated to that. But I feel at this stage in the game, there's only two things that the market is really worrying about or caring about. That is interest rates, ideally being cut, and then of course just the whole Iran scenario. So we'll just have to wait and see what does come. Number of retail investors didn't do all that much today, and they actually haven't been doing all that much since looks like around the 3rd. So have you been buying over this last little bit? Have you been selling? I was kind of tempted to buy today, but at the same time, like I said, a lot of people are selling because of some possible fear that might be coming this weekend. With that mentality, that's actually the same reason why I didn't buy, because just in case, you never know, if there is some crazy news, SoFi could be easily at that 688 starting on Monday. So we'll just have to wait and see, and that's probably maybe, like I said, no matter what, if it's between that 750 and 780, that is where I'll probably be a buyer at. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe, and with all that, appreciate all of you watching.